Hi, welcome everybody. Welcome to the July 2nd, 2024 Cosmic Tower Q&A call with Nico and Patter. We're excited to share with you again. We didn't get into Nico's presentation as much last time because you all had so many questions and you're so engaged, which was really beautiful. We love that. That's actually our preference. So we have some questions that you guys have been emailing in, and we're going to start with those again, and then we're going to make room for live conversation and your questions. It's always our preference. And then, Nico has some stuff from his new presentation to share. So we'll go ahead and get started. So Nico, what's the purpose of elevating the tower to heart height or whatever level?
Well, it's not like it has to be at heart height, right? It's just for the smaller towers. And I'm talking about like the 35 and the 75. They do not like to sit on the floor. So Harold would say you want them at least a foot above the floor. And one of the things he would mention is because it neutralizes and stuff will fall down to the floor that gets like dust, like he would call it, that's in the house. And if the cosmic tower is sitting on the floor, it's kind of sitting in its own dirt, he says, of what it has neutralized. So he would just say you would want it at least a foot off the floor. Now, from my own experience, if you actually look at like the center, the blue ball that's there, which you could consider as the center of the toroidal field, I feel personally that it's a more harmonious connection with the tower, because if you look at your heart, which is like one of the strongest toroidal field in your body, it's also here in the center of your chest. So it creates this alignment to where the two fields are aligned. So it's my personal preference, but hey, everybody's different, right? Play with it and see what works best for you. But that has always worked well with me. But I would say as a requirement, just at least a foot off the floor. And then the 220s and above, they come on their own pedestal, and they obviously go right onto the floor. They don't have to sit on a shelf or anything.
Sounds good. The next person asks, I would love a tower, however, I live in a small apartment and would think that the mini would be sufficient, but I understand it does not offer the same benefits as the 35. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, the mini is really for when you're traveling and for when you're away from your larger tower. So we recommend at least a 35 or above, because the mini simply doesn't have enough power to create that bubble around your home. It's more meant to protect your own personal aura. And so it's at least a 35 for the home. We recommend a 75, but 35 or above, and then the mini for when you're traveling, because it simply doesn't have enough power to give you all the benefits that you get from a 35 and above, because the amount of power really is determined by the amount of water that's in your tower. And as the towers get bigger, there's more water in it, and then how far the two vessels are spread apart. So the further they are apart, like the larger the field becomes. So only use the mini for when you're mobile and for when you're traveling.
Great. And with regard to the mini is much more likely to have its angle changed, right? Somebody might put it in their handbag or be carrying it in a certain way to keep it safe in a given moment. So does it still work when it's in a handbag or when it's at a different angle or something like that?
Well, those are two different questions, right? So if it's within a handbag, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the field doesn't stop, is not stopped by a handbag, right? It will travel through walls. I mean, they're scalar waves. They're not limited by being in a bag. Now, when a tower is standing up, that's when it's most powerful, right? When its toroidal field is perpendicular basically to the earth is when it's the strongest. So ideally you want to have your mini sitting up. So when you put it in your car, and you can put it in a cup holder or something, just make sure it's sitting up. It's not like it doesn't work when it's on its side. It's just not nearly as powerful as when it's sitting up.
Do you know how many ounces of water are in the Mini? The specific question is with regard to traveling and TSA.
We've written that down somewhere, and I don't remember how many milliliters. What I do remember is that it's below the TSA carry-on. What is that, like 4 ounces and
3 ounces.
four,
Are we
four
getting four from somebody else? Maybe it's changed. You know, I know that Nico and I have both taken minis on planes, and I think that sometimes dealing with TSA is a matter of just standing in your power. And so whenever I go to take something that's liquid on, regardless of whether I know how many ounces it is, I just tell them it's 2.5 or 3 ounces, and um, like, what are they going to do? You know, they don't know, and we don't know.
I never had an issue with it to take it and carry on. And I definitely know that it's below what their guidelines are.
Yeah,
And
it's fine.
just ask your tower to make itself invisible to TSA, because to be honest with you, like I've brought things through TSA I didn't know were even in my bag. It's so like hit or miss. Sometimes they're not the most consistent, let me put it that way.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds good. Okay, if someone is within the proximity of the mini tower, if you're not close to your main tower, will it still help them?
So you mean, can you repeat that? I didn't
If
get.
someone is within the proximity of the mini tower
Yes.
and not close to their main tower, so they have a 35 or a 75 that's not nearby, will it still help them?
Well, yeah, that's what the Mini is designed for, right? When you're outside of the field of your 35 and your 75. I don't know what's meant. Will it still help them if they would still, but if someone
Benefit.
else is with
Yeah,
you?
benefit energetically. Paula, maybe you want to unmute and jump into the conversation.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
thanks.
Okay, thank you. So what I really meant was, so weekend before last, I was away from my main tower, and I had my mini with me. And of course, I was staying at an Airbnb, and there was somebody else there, you know, in the Airbnb with me. Would that help them also if it's in the same room? If they're there, would that help them?
Yeah, if they're within the range, yeah, absolutely. Kind of look at it like a tree has a harmonious field too, has a toroidal field, right? And if you have a smaller tree, has a smaller field, you don't feel it like an oak tree, like a ginormous oak tree, for example. But still, if you're both like standing within its field, yeah, you both receive benefits, right, from the harmony of the field. Absolutely.
And
It's not like it's discriminating. I don't know where the question's really
right.
going. Like, no, I'm only going to help Paula because
I
I don't
know.
know you.
Well,
Stranger
the thing,
danger, you know?
right. Well, yeah, well, you know, it's not, I wasn't trying to be selfish at all. I was just trying to, like, if I, for example, if I left the mini in the room and the person was left there and they would actually receive the benefits, obviously it's not with me, it's out of range. So whoever's in that vicinity. And then my last question for now is, what is the range again for the mini? For the, what is it, like 20 feet around or something?
Yeah, it's about 15 to 20 feet. And remember, the range always depends on the environment that you're
Ah,
in, right? I mean, if you're in New York in a high riser, right, that the range might be more condensed. While if you're out in nature working and you walking and you have it in your backpack and there's no cell towers around, I mean, the range is going to be bigger. That's why there's never like a set range, because it always depends on what distortions are present in the field, as in how much does the tower have to work, right? So it can go out. I mean, kind of like the way I look at it is like all the distortions and everything that is present in the environment, it's almost like it pushes in a sense, and the tower pushes out, and then it establishes like an equilibrium within the field, and how far that is, that then depends on the environment
okay.
that you're
And
in, but some are 15 to 20 feet. Yeah.
I know I said one last question. If you're in an area, you don't have your main tower with you, but there happens to be another tower around that will the mini pick up on that? Or does it have to be directly with yours?
So if you don't have your mini with me and
No, if
with
you have
you,
your
and there's a
mini
big,
with you, but you're in
Mhm,
another, your C75 or 35 is at home and you're
mhm.
not in that vicinity, but you're somewhere else and somebody happens to have either one of those or a bigger tower, would
Mhm.
that connect automatically?
Rather than seeing it connecting, I would see that a larger tower would take care of a lot of the harmonization in the space that you're in, which then gives that mini more breathing room to focus on other things. Does that make sense?
Yes, 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 absolutely. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We're gonna really get to the bottom of this mini and bigger tower thing here, because the next question is on this too, which is there a maximum distance the mini can be away from the main tower? Like if I have a 35, is there a maximum distance my mini can be away?
Well, yeah, the mini is made for when you're outside of the range of your larger tower. Right? So it's really meant to protect your field while you're outside of the range of your bigger tower. So I don't know if there's a misconception that the mini needs the other tower, right? But that's not the case. The mini stands on its own, has its own field, but it's meant to protect you so your field doesn't degrade while you're outside of the field of your larger tower.
I think
Right?
there
So
has been that misconception. Like you're clearing it up in me, so you're probably clearing it up in our whole community as you clear it up in me. And so the idea is that the 35s and the 75s, um, they they are designed to work within the field of a 220. Like that's the intention for the project. That's why it's been so important to get 220s across the country, and we've done a really good job with that. We're primarily covered on the majority of the US. Whereas the mini, it just goes with you, and it's a protection rather than a regeneration.
yeah, but also the 35s and the 75s, they stand on their own. They have their own field. Right? It's just that we live in an environment where there's so many distortions these days. I mean, the 5G rollouts, the satellites, it's ever increasing, that the large towers really take care of a lot of those environmental issues. They really do a lot of the heavy lifting, harmonizing the energies in a wide scale harmonization. And that, of course, then offloads the burden of the smaller towers, of the 35s and the 75s. And that's why Harold was always so focused on getting a big blueprint, a big network of large towers out there, because the 75s and 35s, they're great for your home and to give you the benefits, but don't forget, like, we have to address the environment. Right? If every individual home is doing okay, but the environment as a whole is dying, and nature cannot deal with the EM, we are also going to die as a species, right? We're not independent from nature. So the large towers are really focused on dealing with these systemic issues and helping our environment to thrive and get all that harmonized.
Beautiful. Okay, is it overkill to have both a CT 35 and 75 in a single family home? Welcome to the community, Lillian. I know you're new here, and I know how you got here, and that the person who helped you get here has actually inspired me, because she's put towers in almost every room in her house. And when I realized that she could do it, I was like, well, I could do that. And so I've just changed my scenario, where I have two 35s, a 75, a mini, and a 220 in my home. And I've been noticing that I'm having different dialogues with each of them, and um, so the 220 is more focused on the Hawaiian Islands as a whole and nature. Nico, by the way, if you can pull up the 220 map while I'm talking, at some point, that would probably be a good thing, because that's another question that's out there. So I'm having conversations with the 220 more about Lahaina and the pollution on Maui and addressing the environmental impacts of what happened here last year and strengthening community. And then the 75, I, for whatever reason, have designated my health conversation with it. And so I've developed a habit of taking a mason jar full of water, and I put it right at the edge of the 75 when I go to bed at night. And I request that all of the homeopathics and beneficial frequencies that would support my health and well-being be transmitted from the tower into that water while I sleep. And so when I wake up in the morning, I give thanks, and then that's the first water that I drink every day. And I've just been loving it. So that, for whatever reason, I decided that 75, that's the focus. And then I have a 35 right here on my desk. And so the 35 is like my business advisor and my meet the world counsel. And yesterday I had a person who does constellation therapy come to the home, and I took the 75 and the 35 out into the living room next to the 220 and did the session with everybody present. Actually, the mini stayed in the bedroom, but I had 4 towers in the room during that. So I would say emphatically that there is no such thing as overkill, and that you'd be guided by your finances and your intuition and your relatedness to the towers, and let that show you. Because here it is, I've been around the project for 2 years, and I've really just figured this out. And I lived with a 75 way at the beginning, like the first one we got into the US, I had in North Carolina, and gosh, that feels like lifetimes ago now. It's less than 2 years. And then I haven't had a 75 for a long time, and having a 75 again feels phenomenal. I just love it. So do you want to add anything to whether there's a overkill with having both, Nico?
No, I think you covered it. You covered it well, and I was in the same situation, 220, 75, and a 35, and yeah, they're a little different. The energies of it. For me, the 35s were a bit more personable in a way. And then what I like about the 35 is just that mine goes everywhere with me. Most of you know that. Like, I can put it in my backpack, go out in nature with it. I love to sit, by a lake or be out, or take it in the car and all that. I really like that about the 35.
Yeah, great. I've been really fascinated that each one seems to evoke a different dialogue in me now that I have the contrast of them. And honestly, I've been doing a lot of that dialoguing when I wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning, which has been pretty frequent now that I live in Hawaii. I just seem to wake up earlier. And very often when I start the dialogues with the 3 of them, I'll do it while lying in bed. I'll then end up sleeping till 9 or 10. And so I'm up for a half hour, or some amount of really peaceful minutes, and I just feel really nurtured and held. So just let the dialogues guide you. Guys, I'm jumping all around on the chat. I'm not following a linear progression, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to catch everything. So just bear with me. I'm trying to keep threads of the same topics and then also the same people. So I see your questions, and I think I got it managed well. And we love that you're engaging with so many questions. It's super sweet. So sticking with the person who asked the last question, Nico, I have my CT35 next to my piece of amethyst now. Heard that crystals can enhance its powers. So can you comment on the surrounding your tower with different items topic?
Yeah, Harold said to not necessarily put items like too close to it unless you're sure they're really clear, right? So it wouldn't like really interrupt with the field. But like, one of the things you can definitely ask your towers like to clear your crystals, right? And then play with it. I mean, Harold recommended to not do that. Honestly, I had crystals around it because I like to play around and then measure it. So you know, follow your own guidance, right? And test it for yourself and see what feels good. I mean, I have seen situations where there was a really big crystal nearby that really needed clearing, you know, that you know, interfered somewhat with the tower, and it wasn't like the tower was just going to clear it without permission. But once we had that crystal cleared, I asked the owner, like, you know, just put it outside, right? It's a new moon, put it in the ground, give it a few days there, and feel like it needs to be cleared. And she actually said, "Oh my God, I totally forgot about that. You're right. I haven't cleared that one in years." So yeah, so do that and yeah, play with it. I'm all for that. I had crystals around mine, I'll be honest with you. And yeah, it can, it in my opinion, it can amplify the field, but test it for yourself. Every scenario is different.
Yeah, I feel the same way too. I have some salt lamps and some crystals, and I like having them around. I like in the evening when the overhead lights are off, having a salt lamp softly illuminating the tower. It just feels really good. And you know, you're sharing what you just shared, Nico, kind of presences for me that I haven't asked the tower to clear that there's electricity in that salt lamp, and I'll do that today. And it's like, you know, just an easy thing to do. And we can just experiment on our own. Nico, did you learn anything on your recent trip about the 4-meter tower in the center of Holland? And are there plans for more of these being built? I'll
Yeah.
address the second part of that, right? Are there more being built? There's a few that exist, and they are they're not in a state of moving into the world right now. We're doing what we can to get supply moving again in the world, and the the edge of the project moving into the 4-meter zone, like that was the next edge of where the project was when Harl was alive. So we're just trying to get back to where Harl was. And to that end, I'd like to speak to supply for a second. So we are going to run out of 35s any day now. So at some point, somebody's going to get an order and they're going to get an email back. I'm sorry, we don't have one to send to you. That's imminent. And then 220s, it's close. And the next container is being built right now. And we anticipate that it will leave Europe before the end of July. And we anticipate that shipments in the US will resume before the end of August. So we think those are conservative figures that, you know, by August will fulfill every order. If you're 35, there's really only a couple left. It's like a handful. Same with the 220s, there's only a few left. And then the 75s, maybe we have enough to make it until the container. It depends on supply and demand. So, you know, they're coming and they're coming fast enough. Like they're coming within 60 days. But if you want one now-ish, place your order because we don't want you to miss. Nico, do you know how much water is in the 35?
No, I would have to look it up. I know you took note of it one time in a Excel sheet, but I forget where that was put.
Okay.
And then saying that tower is just still ramping up.
Yeah.
It's still not at maximum range, at maximum capacity. And I've seen 6 more of the 4-meter ones that are finished. And I've seen 2 of them in Germany that are deployed, of like the 4-meter ones. And I know there's 6 more sitting there, but know that those are really, they weigh a ton. I mean, literally like a ton. So you have to move them with a crane and then move them into a location that can hold a 4-meter tower. So you're at least talking of 14 foot ceiling, what's that in feet, 312. yeah, 14 foot ceiling, and then a way to lower a tower in there. So, but there's 6 of them finished. I know that, and I know Harold was working on the 6-meter ones right before he passed, and unfortunately he wasn't able to finish one of those.
Great. Sorry for asking you 2 questions, one on top of the other there. So with regard to the water and the 35, I'm going to track that data down, and I'm going to remind you all that we keep the information in North America on Cosmic Towers really simple. On thecosmictower.com, there's information. And on thewellnessenterprise.com, there's at the top, the first menu item is Cosmic Tower. And when you click that, we put everything there. And there are what are called custom tabs down below where we give a title to a page, and then you click a plus sign and it opens up. And one of those has specifications. I'll put the water numbers there so that we have that. And any of those kind of how far does it reach, how much water does it have, that's all going to be right there. So we like to give you.
And just to be really clear, the 35 cannot go in carry-on. It has more water than is allowed in carry-on in the vessel, so it has to go in a check bag.
That's a great point. The 35 and 75 can both fit in suitcases. 75, you might need an oversized suitcase, but they do exist, that they're big enough to be able to hold it. And some people will find like golf club transporting equipment or photography equipment. Those type of cases are good for travel.
Yeah, I took my Cosmic Tower 75 to Egypt with me, and I got one of the hard cases for like camera equipment and lights. There's like a hard shell with like wheels on it, and it got there fine. And then on the way back, we stopped with a family we knew really well in Cairo. They're like, "Oh, I really love this tower. Are you sure you want to take it back home with you?" This and that. We would love, to have it here in our home, and it'd be the first one in Egypt and it's needed here. So I was like, okay. So it's still in Cairo right now, the 75. So I left it with them, and they're happy to experience it.
Nice. All right. We got a second person asking about the 220s and the 250s. So you ready for that map?
Yeah, sure. Let me
220s and 250s is a new topic publicly, and I just want to share with people like a little more background on that because it's been kind of a private topic for a while. The issue is that there are a lot of ceilings in the United States that a 220 is the maximum that would fit under that ceiling. And so when we introduced it, if we introduced 220s and 250s, we would have brought this whole communication about ceiling heights, and there would also be the additional logistics of the whole supply chain being able to hold something that's 30 centimeters taller, which, while it doesn't sound like that big a deal, it crosses a line in the FedEx freight, and it has different impacts on how to stand it up and whatnot. So we really only talked about 220s publicly when we brought them into the country. And we brought 4 250s in. And we, in very specific situations, deployed those 4 250s. They're in Asheville, North Carolina, Orlando, East Texas, and West Texas. And the new container that's being constructed right now is bringing in several dozen of the 220s and 1 dozen of the 250s. So we're going to have them now. They cost a modest amount more. I think it's $1,500 additional dollars to go to a 250 instead of a 220. And if you have really big ceilings and a big budget, there's another 100 miles of range with them, and it's great to have 250s. And so they're going to be available now. If you're able to, you just put 250 centimeters into Google and you see how many feet that is. It's like 8 point something feet. And then if your ceilings cover that easily and you prefer a 250, we can accommodate that now. All right, Nico, you ready to show the map?
Yeah, and then you need a few centimeters to actually rotate it and put it on the pegs. But for people that are in that case, like, send us an email. I can give you the exact measurements. Harold told me to the millimeter. how much space, and I actually saw him like stand up a tower that's just like,
Perfect.
like I mean, there was millimeters to spare when it was being stood up to, but it
Yeah.
worked. He knew exactly.
And to that end, if you're getting a 220, in my first location on Maui, my ceiling was like a half inch or an inch taller than the 220 by itself without the stand. And so I just put it up without the stand, and there's no danger of it falling or anything like that. Okay, do you have Boulder on there yet? No, you don't. So Boulder hasn't been delivered yet, but
These are only the ones that are standing up and are active pattern. So yeah.
okay, great. So guys, there have been 2 additional orders that are not, oh no, do you have Salt Lake on there?
Yeah.
Okay, oh, it's, sorry, reading glasses is still kind of small for me, my bad. So there's only one that has had an order that hasn't been fulfilled, which is Boulder. And so that big section right there where Nico's little hand is on the screen, that's going to get filled in. So there's the Salt Lake one. That's great. A lot of people have been asking about Salt Lake for a long time. So, you know, South Dakota, Nebraska, we don't tend to draw a lot of people from there, but you know, the day will come when that gets filled in, and a lot of that's going to get covered with that 250. So Boise, Idaho Falls up there, Spokane, Washington, those are any of those places would be an amazing place to get one. And then of course Louisiana. We're just waiting for that person from down south. Nico, you're kind of moving it around. Are you showing us anything specifically?
I'm just trying to go with as you're talking. We were flying from Boise to Louisiana, so I was trying to follow you.
Nice. Maybe you can back it out and show the whole country. There's a little tip of North Carolina that that is not covered, and we've got most of Maine. It'd be great to get one in the Cleveland area or Detroit, and then that big middle section. So I think we're doing really well. Of course, Hawaii's covered, Alaska is not. And that's where we are right now. Anybody else?
And what's important to note too is that this doesn't show all the towers that are in a location. So if you look at, because Harold always asked us, don't show the exact location of all the towers, but areas that are really well covered, just like here in the New York, the northeastern area, you know, 7, 8 like large towers, and then now also in California, south of San Francisco. So there's like multiple large towers, so you actually have overlap in those areas, which is needed for the big cities, right? Because one tower just isn't gonna do it for a large city that's just infested with 5G, right? We're gonna need multiple towers.
Beautiful. It's good to see that map again, Nico. Thanks for sharing it. Thank you all
You're
for
welcome.
asking. Ed, I think you're new to the community. Welcome. And Ed asked in the chat, do you have any thoughts on how my 35 is interacting with my grounding products?
With the grounding?
Yeah, with his grounding
And
products.
yeah, and how does the grounding, do you use the stake directly into the ground, or do you plug it into like the ground of your like outlet? Because I do know with grounding, sometimes we have to watch it. Definitely if you use like the ground in like your outlet, you have to watch out because it still has the alternating current and the electricity and the magnetism from you know, from the net that is running through there. And then definitely also in more urban areas, right, the net really affects the natural flow of energy into the ground. So even though grounding is really good, and to put your feet on the grass, etc., and use grounding, you have to watch out if they don't recommend it to put it like in your outlet, but actually have the stake outside and then watch it if you're like in a city area where there's really a lot of underground currents running. It might not be so good, but that's where I would say that the Cosmic Tower would enhance your grounding experience, because it doesn't just work like above the ground, right? It also works into the ground. So it harmonizes some of the energies that are into the earth also. So I would say, if anything, it would enhance your experience of grounding. And then also, in a way, it has a similar effect that it creates the life force and that field. So you're getting negative ions from being in its field, which is kind of like grounding. But people say then, oh, if I have a cosmic tower, do I stop grounding? No, I would still do it, because I believe that, you know, until a while ago, we were always barefooted. And if you look at all our meridians, you know, that end in the acupressure points at the bottom of our feet, that it's pretty clear that as a species, we were designed for our feet to touch the earth. So I would definitely still ground, and also go outside and go out and walk barefooted and on the grass in nature.
Great. And the way I took the question was to include products like the earthing mats, you know, the amethyst
Mhm.
mats that people plug in and sleep on, and you know, grounding products like that. I think now there's sheets that are designed for grounding and that kind of thing. Do you have any further comments on that?
Well, that's what I was saying. If you're gonna plug those in, do not plug them into the ground of like your outlet, but try to use the stake that goes outside, right? You have two options. You can just put the plug in the outlet in the ground, or you can have the metal stake with it and then run a wire. So I would definitely do the stake, so you're not using the ground of your electrical circuit that then also has the interference from the grid. And yeah, the answer still remains the same. I think if anything, the Cosmic Tower will enhance it by taking some of, you know, harmonizing some of the currents that are there that might not be natural.
Great. Kathy asked a question about the crystals topic. She said, I'm confused about the need to put crystals, water, etc. next to your tower. Why can you not get the same result by just having your items within the field of your tower? You know, I'm the one that brought up the water thing. That just evolved naturally for me. It's like, you know, the concept of the tower being able to bring through all homeopathics has been brought up, and I felt disconnected from that concept. And so as I was engaging the dialogue with this 75 about my health, it just came up. It's like, you know, a natural mechanism. And I feel like this really, in fact, I forgot my glass of water last night. I didn't put it by bed. I just like fell asleep. I sat down on the bed and fell asleep. And so I didn't have the glass this morning, and I felt some disappointment. And so there's a warmth, there's a dialogue that's nurturing me in doing that. And I think that at least from my perspective, that's part of what this is all about, is cultivating that inner knowing that has you choosing whether to put crystals next to it, whether to put water next to it, etc. So
But Kathy's right. You don't have to have your water and your crystal sitting next to the tower to get the benefits. Anywhere within the field, it's fine. But I think what Patter is alluding to consciously interact with it and ask for that to happen and to direct it, but it doesn't have to be right by your tower. Within its field, it's fine.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure I could have left the glass in the kitchen. It just doesn't feel as prayerful to me. It doesn't feel like a sacred dialogue to do that. And so, you know, moving the 3 towers into the room yesterday when that guy came over for that session, and having them like take a particular configuration, it felt really sacred to me. Like I felt honored, surrounded, supported. And then to redeploy them in the house and move the energies to specific places, it feels amazing. And so same thing with what's around them. And I'm gonna play more with my crystals and being around them, and the salt lamps. I know I love having the salt lamps near the 220 when the lights are off at night. It's really sweet. Okay, Paula asked, wouldn't the 75 do the same thing as the 35? Since you mentioned it speaks differently.
Yeah, it does. The 75 is just 6 times, it feels 6 times more powerful than the 35. But from my personal experience, it's just a difference if you interact with them, with a 35 versus a 75. And that's what I was alluding to, a different character, if you want to call that, the energy feels slightly different, but it's the same, right? The 35, 75, just 75 is more powerful.
Yeah, I mean, the point I was making about that is I just seem to be drawn naturally to have different dialogues with different ones. And you know, I really enjoy that. I've struggled with names for towers in the past, and I've been finding that as these different dialogues are happening, that that names are emerging, and that I feel really comfortable with them. And I like that. I like that they're taking on a particular flavor. Okay, will you send the recording for this? Yes, we always send the recordings for these Q&As. They go out on Friday at 5 o'clock Eastern time, and they go on our YouTube channel, and they get numbered in sequence. So I think we're up to about number 13 or 14 now, and we just keep stacking them. Somebody asked what the best email address is for us, and it's support@thewellnessenterprise.com. In case somebody's listening, we put that in the chat already. Back to another question from Lillian. I have an enclosed tunnel entrance from the front gate of the house. Can the CT be placed there outside the front door, but protected against the elements? Will I get the same benefits as inside the house?
Yeah, so as far as the elements, I mean, obviously it cannot freeze in the space that you put it in, and you don't want water to come in and go on the tower. Not that it would affect the function of the tower, but cosmetically, I mean, it's made of wood. You don't want it to sit in water or be, you know, have it rain on it or anything, but it sounds like that's not the case. And then the main thing is freezing, so make sure it never freezes in that space. So yeah, the field will go through the walls and will go in your home, so you can imagine it as a spherical field that is around the tower. But then, I mean, also because there's a level of consciousness with the towers, and they're part of like a family member. I would ask you if you would put a family member in that space. So me personally, I rather have the tower sit in a place like in a living room, bedroom, or wherever, where I can consciously interact with it, and I'd like to thank it for what it's doing and show my gratitude. And if it's in a living space, it just becomes much easier to be reminded of that every time you see it. And it's just I would say you get a more conscious engagement with your tower. That'd be my only comment on that. But from a pure technical point of view, yeah, if it doesn't freeze and it's protected from the elements, there's no reason it cannot sit there.
There's a couple things that are directed to me privately, and I just want to share in the interest of being present on the call. I'm just going to save those for after. The surest way to get a private response from me is just to email support@thewellnessenterprise.com. I am taking notes as we go, and I'm intending to respond to you. But just so you know, if you're trying to get my attention on a particular topic, yeah, I want to be present, and I will get to you. I am receiving your messages. What are the cobalt blue pieces on the front of the towers? Well, yeah, we'll start with that part.
Yeah, so Harold, we always talk about how they're just cosmetic, right? And part of the design. Then I read, is there a front? Does it radiate in 360 degrees or just forward? It's a spherical field. It's a toroidal field. So it's spherically all around it. So imagine like a donut shape almost that goes around the tower, like a 360-degree sphere. The only exception of it being that spherical are the large towers. So the 220 and above, actually the spheres are flattened out a little to where we cover more range horizontally and don't go straight up into space. Like if you look at like a 220, you're basically looking at a 500 miles diameter, so 250 miles in one horizontally, but not as far down. So the spheres are flattened out more to get more horizontal and not the total spherical.
Great, thanks, Nico. And can you have the tower and the Chi home cell in the same room? So that's
Mhm.
for those that don't know that, that's a different product.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Can you have them in the same room? And yeah, you're going with yes. That's your answer. Sorry. Perfect. Doesn't have to be complicated, better. Okay. Going back to guys, thanks for all the engagement. That was all from live questions. Super fun to interact with what you guys are asking in real time. And we still have some more that were sent in beforehand. So I'd like to know if there's anything I should do energetically when I unpack the tower. Of course, I will welcome it and ask that it be gentle so that I don't have a detox reaction, but just allow me to gradually acclimate to its presence. That's a nice gradual way to introduce oneself to one's tower. I like that. And I'll place it among and introduce it to all my crystals. I guess I would ask if it to clear the energy of the house and help me and my family with healing both physically and emotionally, clear any harmful or negative energy, and bring peace and harmony into the space. What do you guys do with the new tower? Gosh, that sounds pretty good. We could put you on the new tower acclimation team.
Yeah, exactly. I think the person's right on. So yeah, welcome it and then find a beautiful place for it. And yeah, set your intention for what you would want it to do. I mean, the toroidal field is gonna work, right? It's gonna structure the water, it's gonna harmonize. But the more you work with it consciously, the more powerful it becomes and the more benefits you get from it. So I think the person's right on.
Awesome. Nico and I might have different answers to this one. We'll throw it out there. I'll answer it first. Would there be additional benefits of using the Aqua Energizer with the tower? So I remember I got introduced to a new structuring device in 2015. It took me 2 years before I talked to anybody about it publicly, because that's how long it took for me to feel it and understand it and be with it and run it by some of the private relationships that I have to people who are energy sensitive, and to feel really satisfied that I was comfortable taking that public. So when we started this Cosmic Tower project, I had no idea what the position of the wellness enterprise would become about does a cosmic tower structure water? And I am concluded in knowing that the cosmic tower structures water, 100%. And that has been a 2-year process. And I would say I've been there for 6 months. And part of how I got there, it's really important to me when I'm reaching a conclusion on something, that the final test is that it goes out into people's lives and then people bring back waves of consistent, coherent information that I understand. That it's one thing to have my own knowing about it and to have it in all the sensitives that I go to, but it's another to have the public, people I don't know, tell me what difference it makes in their lives. And the cosmic tower structures water. It makes water soft, and that's usually the mechanism of knowing whether something structures water outside of a university laboratory with really expensive equipment is, does the water feel soft? Does it have that kind of a live quality to it? And so I say definitively the cosmic tower does cause that. Are there additional benefits by using an Aqua Energizer with the tower? I'm still investigating. I think there are. Like, I'm really drawn to the vortex and to having something physical that takes my water through and spins it. And if I'm fully honest, like just this morning, I've been testing distilled filtered water now. And just this morning, I was pouring a glass out of the filter that has the distilling first and then the filter. And I noticed that I didn't use my Aqua Energizer. And so here I am, I've got an Aqua Energizer portable right there. And I've got these 5 towers in the home, and I'm feeling the power of that structuring. So yes, I think there's a difference, and no, I'm not concluded on the additional benefits of the Aqua Energizer. I think the best way to find out with anything you do with the wellness enterprise, like our intention is to help you build life force energy so that you have the most direct connection to yourself. You are you. And from my standpoint, I can't get too many things that make me me. I can get too many things that make me not me, like too much 5e, too much television, too many computers, too much of all the man-made stuff, but I can't get too much of the good stuff. Like I could just lap that up all the time. So if you have the intuition, the budget, the inspiration to have more things that structure water, and one does a vortex and one does harmonization in the toroidal field, go for it. And if you're on a tight budget, just start with one thing and see how that impacts you. And if I was going to choose one thing right now, I would choose the Cosmic Tower rather than the Aqua Energizer, because the Cosmic Tower is structuring the whole environment. And if once I got that, I felt my water was soft and it had that alive quality feeling to it, I'd stop. And if it depends on the energetics in your space. And if you don't feel that, then add an Aqua Energizer. And if you need to add a filter, add a filter. And if you need to add a distiller, add a distiller. Those are all different decisions. You don't have to make them all at once. So that's my take on it for now. And I'm ever evolving. One of the things I learned being in this business, the way like water, God, creator invited me into this business, is that water is not a one-time decision and then it's over. If you caught me 5 years ago, I never used a filter, never, except in Las Vegas and Florida. Those are the 2 places I would use a filter. I was traveling a lot, and most of the water in the country with just a structuring device was fine. And I found over these last few years that the concentration of pollution has become more and more severe. And so I am shocked that I'm experimenting with a distiller right now. Shocked. I really never thought I would, but I'm doing it because some really credible, prominent doctors are recommending it. And they've asked the wellness enterprise to carry the products to support what they want, because they already recommend the Aqua Energizers. So now they want the filters and the distillers to be here too. And I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. So the first guinea pig is me. And I'm working that through right now. So that's my 2 cents on that topic. Nico, do you want to jump in on that one at all?
No, I would turn it around. I think there's definitely additional benefits that the towers bring beyond structuring. And then I'm not just talking about EMF and all that, but also to the water. Right? Structuring the water is one thing, but then how much of the color spectrum, of the vibrational spectrum is available in that water is another important thing. So don't forget that the towers, because they have what Harold would call the rainbow water, and they emit those qualities through the environment and also infuse them into the water. It's also, you get that rainbow color spectrum within the water, right? You can just have beautifully structured water, but then how much of the full spectrum of light is available in that water is also important. And then I think it was Theo Lucier, and I think we have a video about that on the YouTube channel. He has one of the most elaborate filtration and structuring devices of anyone out there. I think he runs it to 12 different stages, and then he structures his water. And he told me that he was amazed because he's had this for a long time, and then he had a jar of water and he let it sit on the table, and he's pretty sensitive. And it sat there for a while, and he drank from it. He was like, wow, this is so different. And the only thing that had changed in his environment was a cosmic tower that had been added. So he noticed that beyond all his structuring and filtering devices really added an additional quality and aliveness to the water.
Awesome. I live in a condo apartment. How many floors above and below will the 35 and the 75 impact?
Yeah, so you take the range, right? I mean, I doubt you're gonna live in a condo where the 75 doesn't cover all the floors, right? I mean, it would have to be a pretty high, like skyscraper. It also depends then, of course, what floor that you live on. But the way you can do that is just if you take, like, you know, the average height of like a floor, you can take the range of the cosmic tower and then calculate it vertically, right? Because it has that sphere. So I say it would depend how high the skyscraper you live in, and then what floor you're on, obviously, and also where is it? Are you, you know, in New York? In New York, you're probably in a city. I would say, so how much distortion is around, but yeah, absolutely, other floors are affected.
Awesome. Going back to that page on the wellnessenterprise.com, the top menu item, Cosmic Tower, and then the tabs, the custom tabs as we call them, one's called specifications. What you'll find as you go there is the mini, the range is 7.5 meters, the 35 is 200 meters, and the 75 is 700 to 1,000 meters. So there's some concrete numbers to help you guys as you're working on those things. Lenora lives on the 13th floor of a 21-story condo in Hawaii. So I think about 13 feet and 13 floors. So you're about, so you want to know if it gets to the top and the bottom. So 13 floors is about 150 feet to the bottom. And we're on a 35, 200 meters. So it's well within range. Yeah, so there you go. Little measurement from Honolulu. So with the Cosmic Tower, it improves water. What about toxins, medications, or fluoride in water that isn't filtered? I've written and published pretty extensively on this topic. You know, each of those items is a frequency, and the Aqua Energizer and the Cosmic Tower are products that are affecting frequencies. And so in my personal experience, every toxin is neutralized by going through an Aqua Energizer. And I hadn't really thought that through from the Cosmic Tower perspective, but just kind of, you know, working on it live here with you. I think it's going to be exactly the same mechanism. Like, I do not feel threatened by fluoride in water. And, you know, part of the way that I got to conclusions like that is back in 2013, when I was learning about structured water, I was told that the big deal with fluoride is that it calcifies the pineal gland. And I was really interested in spirituality, so I cared a lot about that. And I tracked the topic really closely. And what I noticed is while I was drinking water with fluoride in it that was not filtered, that was structured, my pineal gland opened, my third eye opened. And I went from having really no awareness or sensitivity of what it was to calling some of my best friends and being like, I'm getting this pulsing in the middle of my forehead, and it seems to be connected to this like inspiration and communication of information I've never had before. What the heck is going on with me? And so, you know, I lived the experience of noticing what we talk about culturally as the threat of the toxin, and then watching the emergence of what would show that that was not happening. And then again, I validated that in our community. and I witnessed people who were buying structured water devices having the same kind of experiences. And so I feel really confident about that. And there's a reason to add filters. And in my mind, there's two. The first one is a combination of taste and smell. If your water tastes or smells poor to you, you're never going to drink enough to be hydrated. So if that's the case, get a water filter. And every water filter, even a Brita, makes water taste and smell better. No matter how bad a water filter is, if it doesn't make water taste and smell better, it's not a water filter. So any filter will do that. And then the second reason to get a water filter is confidence. And so, you know, these 4 prominent doctors that I'm talking about that are really advocating for distilling and filtering, they are on the cutting edge of bioweaponry and studying COVID and the communication of what's happening in this world, like in real time. These are really like new age, like this age of the last 3 years. These guys are thinking on the cutting edge of that. And they're like, we don't want any water that doesn't start and go through the distillation process first. Okay, like I get it. They're talking about some serious stuff. And so the people who identify with that body of thinking, that is a lack of confidence that my current filter or my current structuring device makes it safe enough for me. And so if you have that lack of confidence, then you get a distiller. So those are the reasons I get a filter. But generally speaking, if you live in a pristine place and the structuring of the water, either through your Cosmic Tower or through your Aqua Energizer, makes the water feel soft and have that alive quality to it, that's enough. You do not need to get a filter too. You just need to be confident. We're powerful creating beings. And if you're confident, that's the most important part. Okay, what Bovis values are people getting with their CT35?
Yeah, I know Theo measured some and they were over 10,000. I think one was over 10,000, the other one was over 14,000 after 2 days. Now, the only thing we haven't done is done a follow-up there. I was communicating with him a few weeks ago about measuring it again to see if weeks later what the difference was. But they actually went from like where the life force, where it takes life force away from you, well, into the zone to where you get life force. And there's also some measurements in Germany, but they're not for a 35. These were for a 75 with high Bovis values. But I'll get with Theo to put that together.
Yeah, the line on life force is at 6,500, and we made a video with Theo about this topic. So we just got to find it for you. Actually, if you go,
Oh, that's right.
if you go to the Wellness Enterprise on YouTube, or you put in Patrick Durkin water on YouTube, 1 or 2, both of those will get you there. And then if you scroll back, we have hundreds of videos, but there's one specifically with Bovis readings with our with Theo Lucier in it, and I would recommend watching that. He did a very thorough job on that topic. And then what are Bovis values? The Bovis scale is a scale, a chart that you can print out, and you use dowsing to. Oh, Lenore is holding one up. I'm going to hold it right there, Lenore. I'm going to ping you for a second. Okay, and if you back it off from the screen a little bit, it's a little tight. There you go, a little further. There. Okay, guys, there's a Bovis scale. Perfect. And so thank you very much. I'm going to remove your pin. I appreciate you sharing that. That's really great. So it's a chart for measuring energetic value of things. And yeah, that video with Theo's really thorough on the topic.
Yeah, I just put it in the chat for people, the link. I just looked it up.
Perfect. Thank you, Nico. All right, I've been leaving David hanging out here with his hand up, and then I've got the questions still being typed. I'm going to get to David because I love that your hand is up, and ask you to unmute and join the conversation, and then we'll come back to the chat.
Okay, hi Peter, hi Nico, and everybody else on the call. This is the first time I'm here, and I'm actually from South Africa. And I heard about you guys via somebody who I've got a healing machine from in Portugal and Germany. I've been involved in healing scalar wave machine modalities for a while, and I've been in Ayurvedic clinics and running clinics here in South Africa and the UK, and I'm also an urban planner. So I'm wanting to get this going in the whole of South Africa or Southern Africa with the Cosmic Towers. And I was just wondering who to actually contact, because I did come across it 18 months ago when I was starting to put together some humanitarian project proposals, because, you know, there's all this money that's coming back to humanity. It could be any minute, a few months, a few years. We just don't know when it's going to happen. But that was one of the projects that I had planned, and I got in touch with Cosmic Towers and Harold when he was talking about it 18 months ago, and wrote to the German office, but nobody replied to me. And well, I was chasing a lot of different things, so I didn't really bother to follow up on it. And funds have been delayed and delayed, but I ended up picking it up about 2-3 weeks ago, and I've kind of been planning out what to do for South Africa. So, Pater and Nick, I'd really like to have a chat to you guys in a lot more detail about where we could set up the big towers, the really big towers. I'm also interested in the 4-meter and the 6-meter, and we'll obviously need to find out about shipping cost and the whole story. But I just wanted to know, really, should I be dealing with you guys, or is it better to be dealing with the German? Is the German company still going? Because I wasn't able to follow up on that properly in the last week or so.
Sure.
If you
David,
could just-
welcome. Thank you
Thank you.
for being here and making your voice heard. We welcome you. Just this morning, we were working on a 220 to Africa, and
Oh, good.
we have the clients ready to order. Is the Wellness Enterprise ready to do all the necessary paperwork correctly is the issue. And so we took the next step on that this morning.
Okay.
The picture globally for the Cosmic Tower project is that the original company is running the German-speaking countries. So Germany, Austria,
Right.
Switzerland, and we're
Right.
running the rest of the world. So if you have an
Okay.
inquiry for anywhere other than those 3 countries, and even if you have an inquiry for those countries, we'll forward it on to the right person. But basically, support at thewellnessenterprise.com, our email address is the place. And that's where you get Nico, that's where you get me, that's where you get the rest of our support.
Yeah, I did send you an email about an hour before the Zoom started, just on whether there was an in-between size for the 180 and the 220.
Sure.
I was looking for, you know, because it goes from 110 kilometers to 800 kilometers, and ideally, the way my structured planning had worked for the layout of South Africa would have been somewhere between 300 and 500. But you guys are here to convince me that I should just go bigger and many more towers.
Well, there's a lot of reasons behind the configuration of towers that are offered.
Right. Okay. Well, I'd like to sit down and chat to you guys sometime about that. If we could have another separate Zoom about that.
Yeah,
I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll get a response out to your email within a couple of days. We're running between 1 and 3 days behind on our communications right now, so
No
not
problem.
too bad.
No problem.
And,
Yeah.
you know, we just keep everything rolling and moving forward. And yeah, I'm in Hawaii, so we'll probably have a Zoom.
Okay.
And if we can get this, what time is it where you are right now?
It's nearly 10:15 in the evening. That's why I'm sitting in the dark here. I think you're about 10, 11, 12 hours behind us.
We're perfectly upside down. So we'll get together.
Perfectly upside down, right. Okay.
Get together at 8 today and do that. But yeah, we'll do those questions personally. And thanks for bringing your voice here and your interest. We really appreciate
great.
it.
And just whereabouts in Africa is that tower being ordered from?
I actually don't know the answer. It's yeah, but I'll find out soon enough. Do you know, Nico?
It's going to South Africa, right? You're
I
talking about
actually
what?
don't, I don't remember where that customer is. I usually know, but I've forgotten that one.
Pretty
It's-
sure I'm pretty sure he's South African.
It's been going on for like 6 months. Now it's at a new level because we've that 220 will come from Europe, not from the US. And if we do
Okay,
it,
well, we can sit down and do a whole lot of planning about putting towers in everywhere where you don't have them, literally, because that's the kind of project size I'm looking at. So
yeah.
we can talk later whenever you guys have got time.
Okay, yeah, I'll catch up with you soon. Thanks, David.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, Nico, I have a 75 and usually drink warm water from a thermos. Should I let my filtered water sit in an open glass jar for a period of time before boiling or warming it for it to be structured?
Well, the water gets structured, by the field, which cuts up the water clusters. So when you open like your faucet, right? But then with what Theo also discovered, that there seems to be an improvement of the effect if you let it sit out there for a while. But definitely the structuring is done. That's why for most of you who have a tower in the home, you can also notice when you take a shower that the water feels softer and all that. So there's an immediate like structuring effect. But then I think to fully infuse it with all the rainbow light and really refine the structure might take some more time. But then my question is, of course, what's going to happen when you then boil your water, right? So what's that going to do to the structure? But yeah, you're good. Just doing it straight away. It should be, it gets structured.
Great. Jessica shared that she has an Alexa Pure and recently got a pure water distiller. So for those who know what Alexa Pure is or are just learning about it, the Wellness Enterprise has started carrying Alexa Pure water filters. That's at the request of those 4 doctors that I spoke of. And the distiller that I'm testing right now is the pure water distiller. So we're seeing if we're going to offer distillers. We're definitely offering the Alexa Pure now. Lenore's measuring of the Bovis units on her Cosmic Tower came out at over 100,000. And a word about that is I think that it's important to crowdsource the type of tools that Bovis meters are. And so what will be ideal is getting more than 14 people to submit their Bovis meter readings for their Cosmic Towers. And I've read somewhere, it was a while back, that once you get over 14, that's when you start to get that consensus where it's a big enough sample size. So thank you for sharing your number, Lenore. That's amazing. And we'll just continue to amass more data. Okay, I'm caught up in the chat again. We're already an hour and 15 minutes into this call. So let's see whether, we don't have to catch up with everything people send in ahead of time, unless there's something in there, Nico, that you promised to answer on the call, because I know I made that mistake before.
No, these were all the ones that I put in the sheet were all answers I've already provided to the people in email. Okay. But I just always like to put them in there for the community too.
Okay. Well, I'm feeling full. I'm feeling like this has been a good full call, and it's okay to save a few questions for next month. We'll continue to refine Nico's presentation and practice it and give it. And at some point, he's going to have given it enough times that he's just going to record it wholly for our audience. And then we'll just have the whole thing available for you guys to watch as a single thing. Theo Lucier just arrived. You must have heard us talking about you, Theo. We were just talking about Bovis readings a little bit ago. So nice that you got it, and we're just wrapping up. So I want to thank everybody for being here, and Nico, thanks for all you've done to learn about Cosmic Towers, And you guys, it's so nice to see your shining faces and to be seeing new people and hearing new voices and to hearing your contributions and your questions. You guys are just the most amazing community, and we're really thankful for you. And yeah, we'll be back next month with another Q&A. So until then, be well, and we will see you guys later. And just click the unmute button. So if you want to have your voice be heard before you hang up, you can say goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.